Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited that you all decided to join us this afternoon to discuss a topic that is near and dear to my heart, which is youth apprenticeship. But specifically, we're going to talk about youth apprenticeship and its role in building the future ECE workforce. I feel like this topic is fitting for this week, which for all of you that don't know, this week is National Apprenticeship Week, where we highlight all the wonderful work across the country that is happening with apprenticeship. We are joined by some amazing humans on our panel today, and I can't wait for you all to hear from them. But before we jump in, I just wanted to level set to share a brief history on ESEP's role in youth apprenticeship. We started our first youth apprenticeship in 2019 with a pilot at Castlemont High School in Deep East Oakland. And from that experience, we had a ton of learning. The project was definitely a commitment from not only the high school and their administration and staff, but also ESEPs and really building up the youth skills and introducing them to career pathways in supporting youth and children and families. And through that project, we learned a lot. One, the important role of creating these opportunities for youth in our community to gain that real life work experience, but also the importance of having like dedicated program staff to support and foster that learning for our young people. And just so happens in 2019, COVID occurred, which led to us pausing the program and kind of recalibrating around our youth work. But we have had the opportunity to restart our youth apprenticeship programs in different communities, including Oakland, San Joaquin, and Contra Costa, which you'll hear from all three projects today. But what I really wanted to hit home is why youth apprenticeship is a essential strategy right now for building the future ECE workforce. The first and probably one of the most important is that it expands the pipeline sooner. We're introducing youth to careers in serving children and families through youth apprenticeship opportunities, but also we're making the pathway into becoming a educator accessible, right? So some of our students are getting introduced to post-secondary education and work experience earlier in their, in their youth. Besides, like when they transfer into, adulthood, we're creating that accessible pathway through these programs. Also, speaking of access, we're removing some of those financial and access barriers. So, through youth apprenticeship, some of our young people are able to get post-secondary education with no cost, which is really important. We know that finances can be a barrier to a lot of the youth in the communities that we serve. And through these programs, we're eliminating some of those barriers to really help our young people get on their career trajectory in early care and education or adjacent fields. But I think also I wanted to highlight that we're increasing our workforce diversity, right? We come from diverse communities of students that are multilingual, multicultural, and we're seeing that we're having a lot of young people go through these programs and really bringing their lived experience into the field. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to do as we continue to do this grow your own strategy. And lastly, we know that investing in our workforce and investing in our young people can also lead to better preparation, which also leads to retention. If they're fully supported in their programming and they have dedicated program staff and dedicated professors in their corner advocating for them, we know that they'll retain in the field because they see the investment in themselves as well as our investments in them. And then the outcome would be for them to also invest in their experience and with their employer partners. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panels or allow our panelists to introduce themselves, actually. So I am going to kick it off and start with Cecilia. Please share your name, organization, title, as well as county and where you're located, and share what you love about youth apprenticeship or why it's so important.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Cecilia Terrazas. I am the coordinator of diversity and inclusion, and I oversee our early educator apprenticeship pathway and programs. I work in Oakland, California, which is in Alameda County. I see. What do I love working about young people? And why am I so passionate? I love young people. They're hilarious. They're fun. They're funny. They challenge me. I learn from them. And I think I've always worked with young people for over 30 years. And I think it really is because they are our future. They are the people we need to invest in. They are smart. They are brilliant. They are creative. And so really investing in them in the beginning, I think will impact where we go. And so create starting early with educators and really, I mean, Chanel was talking about, right, the diversity. We are 80% brown and black school district. And so if we're looking to increase diversity in our educators, it's really investing in the young people who are in front of us. And so we'll get that, right? If we're looking for black and brown teachers, we have them. And so how do we really encourage them, love on them, and support them to like believe in this field and believe that they can make a difference in their own communities?
All right, and I'll pass it to Angela to introduce herself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Beyer. I am the discipline chair of early childhood education and education at San Joaquin Delta College here in Stockton, California. And I think the youth, especially in our community here in Stockton, need help finding a path. And sometimes it's finding a
Okay,
path,
all right,
the
thanks.
one you don't want to be on. Like, yep, that one's not for me. I need to find something else. But finding ways to get youth involved and connected to show them that there's options, because so many of our kids don't know what's out there and what all of our choices are in our community and outside of our community, and investing in them to watch them grow and shine. I think that's the coolest part of the process. I get to be with them for 2 years and to watch that change for 2 years in a row, to really blossom into young adults and figuring out paths. And a lot of them end up either they're coming to me again at the community college or they're headed to go, they got jobs and they're ready to go, as they find their way in adulthood. And this little start definitely helps a lot of ours get on paths and figure out what might work for them as they continue down instead of having to wait.
Thanks, Angela.
Hmm.
Passing it to Leslie.
Hi, my name's Leslie Marley. I'm the coordinator of college and career readiness, um, regional occupation program, and also CTE programs at the Contra Costa County Office of Education, located in Pleasant Hill, California. So if you know anything about Contra Costa, it's very large. It's about the size of Rhode Island. And so we have East Contra Costa, West Contra Costa, and then Central Costa, Contra Costa. And the beauty of being in support of a youth ECE apprenticeship is education's not trendy. Education's not sexy. So to give our students the opportunity to really admire, understand, and learn about this particular opportunity for them, whether it is a temporary position, a stepping stone in some of the other broader careers that they might explore, such as the medical field or counseling or social work. If it were my choice and I was, the state high school principal, I'd require every single kid take ECE courses, especially within the realm of child development. Because as a pathway, as a group of students that are in our dual enrollment programs, we know that we are creating better human beings for our future. We're creating better parents, better godparents, aunts and uncles, and just people that will really understand our children and our young people, how they develop, why they're crying, instead of trying to tell you what they need. And I'm just so thankful that we get to have this opportunity for our high school students and that they're not stuck in retail or fast food and being mistreated, that they really do get to be a superhero because when they walk into the room, our littles absolutely love them, especially if they're boys, that they are absolute superheroes. They're happy to see them, they enjoy seeing them, and they love them being in the classrooms with them.
Right. Thank you all for those wonderful introductions. And each one of you represents a different entity, which I want to pivot to discuss the role that each one of your entities play in the development and implementation of ECE youth apprenticeship programs. So I will start with you, Leslie. Can you talk about how the County Office of Ed has a unique role as the lead and coordinating partner of, the school districts as well as the regional occupational programs in your county?
Sure. So way back when the YMCA approached the county office in my area to start this youth apprenticeship, because many of our districts already have CCAP agreements to be able to do dual enrollment. Let's be intentional about our dual enrollment. Let's look at a registered apprenticeship. And so we were able to convene two programs, one on the east with Los Medanos Community College and Pittsburgh Unified School District, and then one on the west with Contra Costa Community College and also West Contra Costa Unified School District at Richmond High School. And so we get to be this kind of advisory committee. Yes, we do the hard things. We work with ESEPs. We make sure that everybody's doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. We write the grants. We apply for the money. But we also get to do the fun things like student events and professional development and really get to support districts in the things that they might not have time to do. Teachers, especially, and other types of site administrators already have enough on their plate. So at the county office, we don't supervise, but we support and we make sure that we're a thinking partner in that coordination. And then we look at other programs within our county, other education programs or early childhood education programs that might also benefit from some of those best practices.
Thank you, Leslie. And speaking of our education entities, I'll pass it to you, Cecilia. Can you talk briefly about the role that LUSD plays in working collaboratively with youth apprenticeship teams at the high school level?
Yeah, so I didn't talk about this, but I am in our talent department, which is our human resources department. And so our initiative really began out of a need, a workforce development need that we had for positions that we couldn't fill. And so I think it's a unique perspective to be in an HR, have an HR lens. And all the things Leslie was saying, I do all those things personally, right? Right. The grants, do all the funding and reporting, and also try to minimize the impact on sites. Same like Leslie talked about, because they're busy. They have huge jobs already and teachers. One of the things, though, that I think has worked successfully for us to hold that in our human resources department is that we already have had a robust dual enrollment system that we've had, I think, for the last 10 years. Our linked learning department, we have a robust workforce development. A work-based learning department. And so those things together already have structures that have allowed us to really tap into that here in the central office and really do all the, as you framed it, boring, fun-ish work, and then also have access to the direct service that they do on the site. And then we offer them support. So currently we are at 4 different sites. Again, utilizing the model we already have, which is dual enrollment. It's offered during the day. And each of our sites has a dual enrollment coordinator as well as a teacher that is embedded in that classroom on top of the professor who's there teaching. And additionally, we run community school model. So every site has access to a plethora of services, counseling, healthcare, and they have systems in place for students who have high needs that are non-academic. And so we really utilized all of those pieces in place. We meet regularly with our site court. We meet with the dual enrollment coordinators a couple times a year. We meet with the teacher, the site level teacher monthly, and then as well as the professor who's also in the class. And then when needed, our staff from central office, we push out to do tutoring, extra level support, and then we do all the registering apprentices and applying for permits. So we try to do the boring parts so that staff on site can really focus on the teaching and learning.
Thanks, Cecilia. And now I'm going to pass it to Angela, who is representing our wonderful community college partner. Can you briefly talk about the role that the college plays in convening and really executing the idea of youth apprenticeship and you being the driving force and your organization being the driving force behind developing the program and ensuring its continuation for ECE Youth Apprenticeship?
Okay. Um, so my specific role right now is technically I'm the professor. I teach all four classes in my apprentice program. Um, they're fully contextualized. They're specifically taught differently and specifically for our youth. Um, because our community is very spread out, access to transportation is an issue, willingness to allow children access to transportation, even if they could get on a bus line or get to us. We actually chose the model to do it on Zoom. And what this allows me to do is we pick a day. It's always recorded in case they can't come. But we do it in the afternoon after school is done. And it's pretty interesting to see that we actually get a very good group of kids that can access in that way because transportation access it can be difficult and that they know they can it doesn't work for me right now. I could watch it later, or I could connect with Angela in a different way. Um, as the faculty member, kind of driving it for the first long years, I was kind of the only one at my college doing it all, and I just figured out how to, from the professor side, I learned my union contract very well. So I knew what I could stand on to allow us to go, oh, wait, no, I know how many I need to get so that I can run the class. Our school does not do contracted classes where it's a small entity, um, which means I have to reach a minimum limit of students. And by being able to go to different high schools and multiple school districts and collect students between all of these different entities. And then it's about finding the balance to support them because they're all throughout the county. Um, and making those relationships with the high school teachers, the high school counselors, I don't know, showing up and having lunch with them. And my students are excited to see me in the cafeteria because I show up in the cafeteria or in their English class, to make sure that I stay connected. Um, I don't know. What else, Chanel? I wear a lot of hats.
You definitely do. And we're going to talk more about those
Okay.
hats in a moment. But I wanted to pass it to Cecilia. So OUSD has successfully launched three youth apprenticeship cohorts. How have you been able to notice like what's working and what's not working and really not be afraid to make changes or pivots and acknowledge what's not working and figure out like redesigning and expanding or contracting in some instances? Can you talk about your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. We've made a lot of mistakes. That's how you learn, right? So yeah, and ESIPS has been super helpful in really talking us through and figuring this out. And we knew nothing about educator apprentices at all. So it's been fun and it's just something now that I love. But we originally started with this great big idea of like, we're going to serve our whole district and we're going to serve students at 10 different high schools, and we're going to all meet in one space. What we found through, and we're going to meet after school because kids want an extra class, like absolutely. So we found out that actually was very challenging. They did not want an extra class. And actually, students who could take an extra class were really, those who were not necessarily the population we were trying to serve, right? I think our thought was that, like, oh, if we meet in a central place all around Oakland, we help them with transportation to decrease those barriers. We provide all the supports in the class. They will come, build it and they will come. But what we found was that it was really challenging for people to get across town. Even with those supports, there's other barriers we just hadn't thought about. And then when it came to supports, it was me and another staff who were doing the embedded tutoring. I mean, I've done it all. We were having to serve 10 different sites and doing like mini what Angela was talking about. I'm showing up, hey, remember me? But I'm running around all around Oakland just trying to like find all these babies to kind of just check in with them and like, I still see you. I still want you to be successful. So it was clear to us that it was not sustainable. We had a lot of attrition and it required a lot of work. And then the next year, what we discovered was like, wait a minute, we already do this and we do this well. So, how do we really build? Again, we have a small team. There were two of us at the time. So, how do we build what we already have? And we had champions in our dual enrollment. They really made this happen. Like, we already got it. Students are already taking college classes during the day at their schools. Duh. So ding, 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 it all started to make sense. And then we were really able to build in supports at each of the sites that already existed. And so that is something that we've learned over time and really have had to pivot. And now, they're kind of running themselves and we just do light touch. We do the permits and paying stipends and things like that are administrative. And the schools, again, just do what they've been doing best. We also have a summer program. It's called ECHO. I always forget what it stands for. But it's paid for by the city of Oakland, and it provides internship opportunities for students. That's already embedded. And if they're going to get their associate teacher permit, they need hours. We have CDCs already. So just really not trying to reinvent the wheel is what we learned, is really finding champions in each of those areas who are really want to work with us and support our work. And then the last thing I'll say that has been challenging still is one of our biggest challenges is boys. Where the boys at? Where are the boys at? Um, we've gotten a little bit better. We've seen higher numbers as we focus on it. As we are like, we're prioritizing boys and men in this program, then they come to the table, we've been finding. But it's been a challenge that we continue to want to work on.
Well, thanks, Cecilia. And Angela, as a professor at Delta College, you teach both adults and youth learners. So, what have been some creative strategies you use in your teaching to build those strong relationships with youth apprentices?
I think it's always a fun combination, and you would think that it's always the adults leading, and I found that it's not. If you can get the teenagers to come out of their shell, which really is just about accessibility, it's really about making them feel comfortable. Um, and being honest and real with them and giving them, how I structure things and try to talk about things is just like this of like, hey, we're talking about what does this look like? What are you experiencing? Let me share a story with you and then let me see you make the connection. Um, but I think getting over the hurdle of the little bit of shyness and getting them to start talking and engaging, and I think it starts with, setting it's okay. Like we can share. I'm going to ask fun questions. I'm going to try to get you to, usually I get you to take your guard down by asking things that have nothing to do with what we're about to teach and learn about, just to get you talking about something so that you're feeling a little bit more comfortable. Getting more comfortable for me because I'm on Zoom, like, hey, get that camera on. Let's share, let's get you chatting in like I've got some that still they won't speak up, but man, they'll tell a story in the chat box. But really working with them to make them feel comfortable with you, because I think if you can get them to feel comfortable with you, they're willing to talk
Mhm.
to the adults in this space. And I think they've really benefited from each other of hearing different perspectives. And I think sometimes my adults have been more inspired by my young ones because they're like, dang, you get to do this. And they're taking the same classes and they're doing some of the same things. But they're just getting that little bit of head start and really, pumping them up and encouraging them.
I've had a chance to join one of Angela's online classes with both the youth and adults, and it is an amazing environment, very fun. I think I've seen a youth's dog show up to
hmm
a class before, but it's beautiful to see both the youth and the adults kind of engage in the same setting academically. So thank you, Angela, for sharing your experience there. And I wanted to now pass it to Leslie to talk about your role as County Office of Education. You play a really big role in being a convener. with partners across the county to build a youth apprenticeship ecosystem for ECE. How do you or the County Office of Ed really drive the expansion of ECE apprenticeships in your community?
So we have, besides the two apprenticeship programs, we have some pre-apprenticeship programs as well, in some of our other schools. And what I get the opportunity to do is work with education pathways. A lot of the times at the high school level, high school teachers, are not as keen on ECE practices and policies and what it really takes to get a job. Yet all of our three community colleges that are in our area and our districts have ECE programs. And so, one of the things that I think is really special that I've had an opportunity to do is kind of make those connections. And from what I've heard from my high school teachers that are teaching in those pathways is, wow, we didn't realize that we could focus more on ECE, or you've connected us to the YMCA, or we've been able to go to an ESEPS event to be able to learn more about ECE. Because if you're like me and you're a secondary person, and I was a 20-year high school admin before getting into this job, I hadn't talked about ECE or even kind of thought about it since my kids were little, and I have three adult children now. So it's been a while. It's not something that we're really used to. We could probably talk about single subject and multi-subject credentials and which CSUs to get into, but to know where that gap was in ECE and our education programs was really, really important. The other thing from the county office level, again, it's that level of support, being able to talk to talent departments or HR departments or ECE departments within our various school districts and say, hey, there's this opportunity for you to recruit right out of your classrooms. Go to the seniors. They have 4 classes. Do you want to give them the paraprofessional test before they graduate? Let's do that. Let's connect them with the YMCA so that they can fill those vacancies. Oh, wait, you have an ECE program at your elementary schools. Let's get them to apply for some of those, or let's allow them when they get to go to college full time after graduation to get that AA work in those child centers as well of where the various colleges are. So those are a lot of the really fantastic and great things. Um, Negatives or barriers. We are working with high school kids. They have to make choices. They don't always like to make choices. They want to do everything because they don't know, which we want them to do. Angela mentioned we want them to know what they don't want to do. And if they don't want to work with the littles, we definitely want to know that. And so we work with a lot of different schools that have the times where they go into the elementary schools and the middle schools, and they do some of that volunteer experience during the school year as well. So those are some barriers. Kids don't know what they don't know. So we as the adults, like what Cecilia had said, making sure we're giving them all of the information that we possibly can, but then being available to answer their questions because they don't know. You know, the YMCA does an excellent job of recruiting the parents that are dropping off their kids to those ECE programs. And so we want to make that connection with our high school kids to be able to know that they have lots of opportunities for careers within their own school districts as well. The other thing is each community college, and I know Angela's on this call and she agrees with me, each community college does things differently. Each calls the classes something different. Each have differences for their assistant teacher permit and their associate teacher permits, which order they want to teach it, what they want to call it, how they want to do it. Our school districts do the same thing. They have a different bell schedule. They have a different way of doing this and a different way of doing that. Am I talking to a college and career advisor? Am I talking to a counselor? Who am I talking to get students assistance in registering and doing all those things? So we play this kind of juggle role, to where we're juggling a lot of information for us on the East and on the West. But again, it's a blessing because tonight we're going to be honoring 5 of our seniors that will be going through the entire program. And like Cecilia, we're able to give them stipends through the grants that ESEPS helps us be able to have. And our first year, we didn't have any because we were just starting with juniors. Second year, we had 1. So we went from 1 to 5, and our numbers keep growing. And so that is also a definite blessing.
Thanks, Leslie. And I think you start to talk about some program design elements, and I think that's a good segue in talking about some of the successes that each one of your individual entities have had through this youth apprenticeship work. So, Cecilia, can you talk about the robust design and delivery of some of the student supports that have led to the success of the apprentices in your program?
Yeah, so like I said, that first year we started with maybe 25 students serving the whole district. Probably kept half that second year. And then that's when we transition into really leaning on what we already do well. And so when we switched to site level recruitment and site level administration of courses and supports, then we were really able to lean on to a variety of like support that is needed for students to be successful. Really finding, our dual enrollment department has been critical. They already have relationships with our colleges here, which is Laney and Berkeley City and Merritt. And so they know which professors that are needed. And so I think the most critical piece is this professor that Angela's talking about. Angela, can we reduplicate you in all the spaces? Because it takes a unique professor, a college professor, to be able to teach our community, because we want somebody who understands our students, sees their strengths, loves on our kids, makes them feel safe to share and explore and give their opinion and really be integrated into like what the content needs to be integrated into their lives, right? We can only learn from building upon what we already know. And so I think that's been the biggest challenge, but the systems we've already had in place is that we have a robust list of teachers who our dual enrollment team has already been cultivating and building. And then with that, really leaning on the systems that I talked about earlier, which are there's a dual enrollment coordinator at every site, right? Who's knowing these professors, is coordinating, making sure they understand the bell schedule. Because, like what Leslie said, even though we're one district, each school has a different bell schedule, a different counselor, and so it's a little bit intense. But having that coordination there, that they again, I'm not asking them to do extra work. It's work they were already doing for that staff person, and then this teacher who's with the professor, they were already doing that. We actually provide extra support. So we communicate with them and be like, hey, is there kids that you need extra support with? Is there's a big essay coming? Should we come and be another embedded tutor? Do you need me helping to call parents? Things like that. And so that structure has really helped us find success as well. And I want to say, this year we're celebrating 87 students are graduating in this new model. They've taken the 4 classes, which is super exciting. I'm so proud. And I think it's because we weren't having that same success in our previous design. We pivoted to really lean on the people that are already doing what they're doing and who know what they're doing. And we've had, I want to say, like we've had like in 2 years, 5 people fail classes out of 100 students. Like that's incredible, right? And it is because we're really intentional on who we recruit in terms of like our staffing, not students. We take everybody, but in terms of our teachers and our staff, and then providing communities wraparound supports, right? Love our babies, however they come, we serve them, and we really try to practice a no-fail model. And with all that comes just everybody giving the village, right? The village giving support to our students.
Well, thank you, Cecilia. And what it makes me think about too, when you talked about like pivoting your design, it made me think about something that the County Office of Ed did with their staffing. So I'll pass it to Leslie. Can you talk about the pivot that the County Office of Ed made in shifting things such as your success coordinator as a county employee, or actually your success coordinator sat with your employer partner but now you've transitioned that role into the County Office of Ed. So can you briefly talk about what that change or pivot has been and how it has impacted the program?
So Samantha's on this call. I just want to give a shout out to Samantha Ayala, who's our success coordinator. Her job description is Youth ECE Support Specialist. And again, this is another thank you to Chanel and Keisha. So here I was sitting at an ESEPS retreat and going, I know that our success coordinator with our employer partner is doing a great job, but this is year-round things that I think that we can do to improve, whether it's the work readiness skills, which a lot of you know are called soft skills, whether it's getting to the classrooms and getting that information. Um, and like many of the other people on this call, this isn't my only job. So I'm a coordinator. I have 3 other school districts that I support as well, 175 teachers and other programs. And so I needed help, and I needed help really badly. And I needed someone who understood high school kids, who case managed high school kids in different areas and in different pathways. And so I sat down with Chanel and Keisha, and I sat down with my boss, Hillary, and said, I think we need to do this. And Samantha's only been here since October, but we have doubled our numbers since last summer. We're onboarding our summer apprentices right now. We've had the 5 that are, graduating and returning has been magic for us. Samantha's built relationships with our employee partners. She's built relationships with our community college teachers and been that go-between. She's been learning from other success coordinators in other districts or the YMCA of what to do and best practices. And Samantha brought a lot of her own skills and talents with her in case managing at one of our local school districts. And she brought that to the county office, which has just been absolutely life-changing. And so for me to do kind of like what Cecilia said, more of the administrative things, and Samantha get to be the person who's really contacting the students, being able to do everything with them. Oh, and let me also add, Samantha's bilingual. My Google Translate Spanish emails and text messages last year were not anything to where Samantha's level of translation is when it comes to Spanish. And so I'm super thankful for her technology skills, her communication with our students. And so this summer, as of today, we have 34 summer apprentices, OJT, that's going to be coming from last summer being 16 to 17. And so again, we've doubled that amount. That means that both of us get to go visit sites over the summer, help with that planning for after high school. And it's just a new situation. So anybody that's out there, if you get a chance, get yourself a success coordinator because it is just magic. Absolutely magic, absolutely life-changing.
Great. Thanks, Leslie. In this youth apprenticeship work, we talk about the recruitment and engaging of young people, but there's also other parties that are part of this engagement process, which is their families, their community, the folks that surround them with support. So I'm going to pass this to Cecilia first and then open it up to both Angela and Leslie. Unlike the adult registered apprenticeship programs, youth apprenticeship requires, involvement, agreement, and cooperation of parents and families. So what strategies have you used to engage families and help them see the value add or long-term value of youth apprenticeship pathways? And what have been some of the challenges as it relates to this process? And what have been some successes and lessons learned?
Yeah, involving families at a high school level is challenging. Um, it helps we speak Spanish. My Spanish isn't great, but I speak it. And so that helps a lot. But there are other languages I obviously don't speak that we host. But it has been a challenge. So some of the things we've done is really, hosting Zoom info sessions. Parents want to know, why does my kid need their social security card? because I need them to know what their social security number is. Why do they need an ID, right? Why do you want all this information? So they're not really feeling really safe. We pay them a stipend, but we need that information in order to pay them, not only to get them registered apprentices, but then also to apply for their permits. And so it has been a challenge. And so we've tried the Zoom. We've tried like we do send home information because we also need their permission to share information about like a FERPA, so we can talk about their educational grades with ECEPs and also with BCC. So there's all these different conversations that we need to have. We also need agreement from parents so they can become apprentices, so they need to sign off. We need them to sign off because we give them stipends. So there's all these different things that we do absolutely need from them, and it's been challenging. So a lot of the times we make sure our information is in multiple languages. We send it over email, we send it in papers, we send many reminders. We talk to people individually via phone, via text, like whatever it is, same like students. uh, hey, reminders, because they're busy. Their lives are busy. I know the same with my teenager, like he grown. I can't be chasing after him. I don't got time for that. And so parents are really busy with all the things they do. So, in the same ways for people who are not able to respond to the questions that we have, we kind of will track them down and really try because we need their consent in order to work with students. The other thing that we've been able to do that I have found really when we've built relationships with parents is they'll help us because we're like, hey, so and so's not been coming to class and we really need your support. And like, I'm going to show up at their last class. Can you make sure that they stay at lunch with me? Because I'm going to make them do some homework. So things like that, if you can get parents on your side, they can back you up. But again, it just depends on like capacity of parents and what they're able to do in terms of, and I mean capacity, like, right, lives are busy. They have a lot of needs as well. And so, yeah, we've been truly trying to build relationships, but I think we have a lot to learn and a lot of other things we can do, like maybe an event, like a parent appreciation, a fun thing, right? That we haven't been able to explore, but that's currently how we've been engaging with parents.
Nice. And I'll pass it to Leslie. Is there anything you would like to add from your context as the County Office of Ed implementing this work?
Sure. So besides the things that Cecilia talked about, I think one of the things that Samantha and I do as a team really well is empower students to take some of this responsibility themselves. So we do some of those sentence frames or those sentence starters. This year we started to onboard our apprentices a lot earlier. And so we had conversations with students about, hey, we need you to talk to your parents or guardians about what your plans are for the summer. Are you going on a big trip? Are you being able to do this? Okay, let's spend the time now and ask the questions about where your social security card is, where your birth certificate might be, where your passport might be, for those proofs of ID and what that would look like. And so we've started to do some of those hinting sentence starters. We also have lots of conversations about and lots of pieces of information, whether it's emails or phone. Share this information with your parents. This is how you're going to get paid. This is the event that we're having. This is, your job schedule. This is where you're going to be placed. Let us know if you need a bus pass or some of that other support that we can help with. But I think probably one of the best successes is this event tonight, our Students of Excellence, where we're going to be honoring our apprentices for the work that they've been doing. And so when I talk about them tonight, these are kids that aren't necessarily going to be able to receive awards academically from their schools. They're not necessarily valedictorians or salutatorians or NAP classes because they're in the process of taking these dual enrollment classes. And one of the beauty and benefits about CTE is we get to give kids awards and scholarships that maybe not would be recognized otherwise. And so we're really, really happy about being able to do that. And we invite parents to come. And we invite as many family members. They're not limited on how many tickets they have, but it's, hey, can you get there? We'll feed you. You'll have a nice night. You'll be getting, your scholarship checks or stipend checks for the apprentices. And, we're going to take some fancy pictures of you and so forth. And so because we hold this apprenticeship so high in regards to all of the other things that are going on and we recognize them, that's something that we're really proud of.
And like what's great is that I'm hearing like varying perspectives of not only, you all engaging with families, but also empowering the youth to engage with their own families, which I think is really helpful because it's preparing them to advocate, for themselves and, participating in these programs. Angela, I'm going to pass it to you. Like, how can you share like some of your experience with engaging families around the youth apprenticeship program and some lessons learned there?
Definitely. I think the bulk of what I do try to do is it's all about empowering my students. The majority of my students are first generation kids. Nobody really understands the college system. We have a lot of undocumented students within our system and in our community. So there are those little barriers, but teaching them how we have conversations, what do they have access to, particularly becoming a Delta College student, because that is one huge thing of how protective we are of our students and the avenues that we go through of like, hey, we can help you work through that piece. Hey, you don't have health care. Soon as you sign up for our classes, you have health care. We can get you into the dentist. We can do all of these things to support them to move through. And so it's really about teaching my students to advocate for themselves and have those conversations. We do meetings with parents, and sometimes it's at the high school, sometimes it's on Zoom, to get them engaged. But we really do try to push, or at least I try to push my students to, hey, I want you to try to have this conversation and try to talk through these things. And if that doesn't go how you want it to go, now let's try to go side by side and try to help you navigate that through, because I think a lot of our students, it's just a like for their families, it's a lack of understanding the system, um, or even sometimes seeing the benefit of why would you do that extra, or how is this helping our system at home, um, and so making sure that that value is communicated. But I think to really share that value, it comes back to, do the students really understand what are they signing up for? What are the expectations? And what are the benefits of what you have access to as you move forward?
Nice. I love that approach of really having it as a community or family decision in their level of participation and how to move forward. And I think that that's really important for them to be able and feel empowered to have those conversations. We are nearing the end of the webinar. I feel like this time just goes by so quickly, but we can't end this webinar without a wonderful closeout question. So, briefly, what would you say to those in the audience for whom youth apprenticeship is a new territory, or who may not necessarily be sold on it, but kind of interested in it? Why do you feel youth apprenticeship is a key frontier for both apprenticeship and the ECE workforce development? And why should programs or people that are interested embrace this opportunity to explore youth apprenticeship as a ECE pathway builder? And I will start with Leslie.
So our program's name or nickname is Grow Your Own. And we did that intentionally to make sure that our schools and our districts knew that they could grow their own. We're going to see a lot of teacher shortages very soon with regards to ECE programs. Our county has said that they do not have enough placements for the amount of vouchers for our families for childcare and ECE centers. And so we need to make sure that we address that. And it should be done at the school. It is something that a high school student can accomplish in high school. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's tricky. Yes, it's a lot of explanation. Yes, it's also working with high school counselors who want everybody to go to college. And luckily, that's something that I do within the CTE pathways. but even more with the two schools that I work with our apprenticeship. It's okay for students to utilize this as a stepping stone for um, other careers and so forth, or work at the child center while they're going to community college. And it's an amazing, wonderful, wonderful experience. Our students have had such great feedback, and they come back and they want to come back and they want to see the kids, and the kids want to see them. And that's the other thing when they're, snot noses are grabbing onto their pant legs and telling them that they don't want them to go and they're leaving. And that is just a great, amazing feeling to be wanted by those small, wonderful little human beings is just a really, really magical thing. You need to give your high school kids this experience. If you have this opportunity to do this, do it. Do it again and again and again. Put your resources in this because giving back to our own kids is so much more important than any of the other pathways. In fact, when we do our professional development and we do student education conferences, we say that without this particular pathway, none of the other pathways exist. And that's absolutely the 100% truth.
Thanks, Leslie. And I will pass it to Cecilia and then Angela for very brief response before we close out this webinar.
I was so inspired by that,
I
Leslie.
know.
What do I go after you? I think, you know, for me, I feel like we're going to be in trouble if we don't invest in young people. I work in recruitment, remember, in HR, and there's already a teacher shortage. That's kind of what brought me in. I mean, that's exactly what brought me into this. I'm like, wow, we don't have enough teachers. We'll go a whole year without a paraprofessional. We'll go a whole year without an IA or an elementary school teacher. And so we have subs that are not from the community that don't stay here. During the pandemic, lots of people left. And I was like, bye, you don't want to be in Oakland. We don't want you in Oakland. Right. And so I think, investing in our young people, this whole grow our own has been life changing for me to really begin to pivot. I've been teaching for 30 years and it barely has been the last 5 years. And I was like, wait, I've never once told a kid, hey, you should think about teaching. And so like there's been a light bulb that's gone off for me to really, and doing, school leadership work, now central office leadership work. We need young people from our communities. We have to invest in them. If we don't, we're really going to be in trouble because, not only are we not going to have enough teachers, you can't go to work if you don't have somebody taking care of your babies, right? Like it's just not going to happen. So our society is dependent on a workforce who cares and loves for other young people and wants to do this work and is willing to stay through the hard times, good times, all the times, and who are really committed. And then the last thing I'll say is I think as I was listening to Leslie, is just thinking about the healing that goes both ways, right? Like that kid who's holding on to this young person, and then the healing that this young person receives and getting so much love from this other little human, that's life changing.
And Angela with two minutes.
All right.
You got
So, right, I got it. I think it's twofold. Here in the Valley, our people don't leave very often. I have people that have never left Stockton in their entire life, and that's been generationally. Um, so that means we do have to grow our own. But I think also for my community and why I like working with this population is I think we have a group of youth and young adults that are eager to be led,
Mhm.
that are looking for somebody to be like, hey, come on, like you have an opportunity, you can do something, you are capable, and I'm willing to invest in you. And I don't think, at least in my community, and I know it's in a lot of others, they don't hear that very often. And the more that we can pour in to our youth, the more they're going to turn around and just pour into the next group. And that's how, for a community that never leaves, that's how we make systematic change.
That's a mic drop, Angela. Thank you. Thank you all just for sharing your experiences, being transparent and authentic in your responses. And I know folks that have joined us this afternoon definitely appreciate it and have some gems of consideration to take back to their respective communities as they ponder youth apprenticeship. Before we go, I just wanted to mention that ESEPS has published a report on the first year of OUSD's implementation of their youth apprenticeship project, and we'll be publishing a second year report that's going to be out next summer. So you could access these resources on our publications page. Check out our website at eseps.org. And if you can't find it, we are here to help you navigate our website. So please feel free to email us at eseps@eseps.org. Thank you again to our wonderful panelists. Thank you all to our attendees for joining us. National Apprenticeship Week is going to be wonderful. Still more to come. Definitely join webinars, learn more about youth apprenticeship. It's the best time to do it. And continue to be curious and in community with one another. And thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day.